Welcome. Here we go. I see participants are coming in. This is wonderful. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our event on successfully building startups. I'll wait for everyone to gradually come in. There we go. I see the seats are being filled. Welcome, everyone, to our event, Building, Funding, and Growing Successful Biotech Startups. My name is Julie Wolf. I am here as part of the IndieBio New York program, a program that has recently come to New York, opening up its second office. And you'll hear a little bit more about that later in the program. We have a suite of excellent resources and funding programs for different biotech startups today. And so we're just going to do a quick round robin hello from everyone, and then we'll dive into today's presentation. And so I'd like to introduce from SVB, Anton Xavier and Matt Gibbs. Say hi, guys.
Hi. Hello, everybody.
Wonderful, thank you. And from the Center for Biotechnology, we have Huang Yuan.
Hi.
Huang, do you want to say hi?
Yeah. Hi, everyone.
Wonderful. And from IndieBio, we have the managing partner, Stephen Chambers, managing director, excuse me. Sorry, Steve.
Get it right. Yeah.
I know. Of all of the ones to mess up. How embarrassing.
Yeah, hello, everybody.
And from the Bird Foundation, we have Andrea Yona. Hi, Andrea.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone.
Wonderful. So we have a series of events, and we are going to kick things off in a slightly different order than what was on the program on the invitation. Just so that you are aware, we are going to kick off with SVB because we have limited time from Matt, who's made time to come and present his work with Cipher Bio. And then we will jump to the Center for Biotechnology, then IndieBio, and then the Bird Foundation. So stay tuned. We're going to go through these different presentations, and then we will jump into the Q&A. So thank you, everyone, for giving us your questions, the things that you're here to learn. We had a lot of questions about fundraising, so that is one of the main topics of today's program, and we'll also touch on some of the other questions that were submitted. Meanwhile, if you have questions that pop up that perhaps are inspired by some of the presentations that you're hearing, go ahead and put those into the Q&A. You'll see down below, probably been to a million of these Zoom things by now, the Q&A is where we will be looking for questions specifically to today's panelists. If you'd like to say hi to one another, maybe do a little bit of networking, feel free to say hi in the chat box and maybe drop your LinkedIn profile and try to connect with folks in that manner there. All right, without further ado, I'm going to hand over the microphone to Anton and Matt.
Thank you. I am going to share my screen right now, and I just want to confirm that everyone on the screen can actually see my screen. Can everyone see my screen?
Looks beautiful.
That's perfect. Okay, so I'll start. I'll be giving you a very brief description of early stage banking in the life science sector that we do at SVB. My name is Anton Xavier. Welcome to this presentation and welcome to this webinar. I hope you guys are recovering from the snowstorm yesterday. Certainly, we are over here in New York. So I head up the life science startup sector in New York and the Northeast. My background is in early stage R&D as well as search and evaluation with large pharma, and then also have experience with accelerator and early stage growth of companies for just spinning out of the academic lab. And so I've ported all of those skills into SVB to build out our presence in early stage life science banking. So just to give you, if I could just get to the next slide, right. So just to give you some rough numbers on our life science practice, we have more than 3,000 life science and healthcare clients. These are companies in the United States. And out of that, 85% of them have been on the Fierce 15 biotech company list, and 67% have been on the medtech company list of Fierce medtech. Now, the astute among you will look at all of those other numbers, the $52.6 billion in deposits, 73% of VC-backed life sciences, our life science companies went public, and the 49% went through secondary public offering. Now, look at that. You guys might roll your eyes a little and say, huh, this is kind of like, looks kind of late stage. Do you guys really do early stage? I'm here to assure you that we do have a early stage practice in life science at SVB. And I'm going to show that to you in the form of what we do in terms of non-banking services. And that's where Matt is going to take over and describe one of those services called Cipher Bio. But just to give you proof that we know what we're doing in terms of early stage growth of companies, first of all, our definition of early stage for life science is companies that have just incorporated all the way up to pre-Series A. So not touching upon Series A just yet, but that's the kind of timeline we're working with. On the right-hand side of this Venn diagram, you actually show it. We're showing our basic banking services to early stage companies. We have free checking, no fees. We have a competitive interest rate on a money market account that gives you 1% up to 1 million, which is very favorable in these current market conditions. We also have a corporate card that's not tied to your personal liabilities or your personal credit score. It's actually tied to the company itself. So with all of these, and that no fee free checking account, it gives you that leeway and runway to move the company forward. But we really do work with early stage life science ventures. And on the left-hand side, we know what life science ventures really want, right? And the key word is want. And the three main things they want are access to capital, introductions to VCs, access to capital, introductions to VCs, access capital, introductions to VCs. Now that's a little bit of a joke because there's a difference between want and need, right? So really speaking, you do want and you do need access to capital and VCs, but you also need to understand how to pitch your venture and get advice from strategic and VC partners, and also know how to form deals and get an understanding of what that deal structure looks like, get recommendations as to who to put on your management team. So really speaking, when you marry that to what SVB does as a bank, it really has a lot of non-banking services, wraparound services, as they were, that can support the early stage environments. We have founder connection events where you can network with VCs as well as like-minded CEOs, build your network to gather further information on these other needs. We also deliver insights, not only through Cipher Bio, but through other means as well, to actually give you an understanding of the competitive landscape of your venture, and also what the true valuation of your venture might be in terms of comparables, what's out there in terms of a Series A raise. But most importantly, what I want to do is introduce you to Cipher Bio, which is one of the unique tools that we have in Silicon Valley Bank that can actually not only introduce you to like-minded companies, but see what kind of VCs are interested in your space. And so with that, what I'd like to do is pass the mic to Matt to give you guys a little bit of a worldwide tour of Cipher Bio and get you understanding just a little bit of how this tool works for early stage companies, but also VCs as well. So with that, I'll just pass the mic over to Matt, and we can go from there.
Anton, thank you very much. Very much appreciate it. So hello, everybody. I know a lot of you are very familiar with Cipher Bio, and a little bit about my background. I know just a little bit about venture capital and life science space. I spent 20 years running a biotech fund called Oxford Bioscience Partners. We got up to about $1.2 billion under management, invested about 149 companies, and wildly successful. GeneLogic, Genset, Geron, Exelixis, Cerna, Dicerna, a lot of companies that you know very well. So we know the world of startup all the way through IPO, acquisition, and whatnot. So joined the bank about 5 years ago with the whole reason to build a product like Cipher Bio that basically was data on steroids, where people could drill into knowledge about indications, approaches, and fundraising. So what you see here on Cipher Bio, $57 billion of invested capital is tracked and aggregated on Cipher Bio. We track it by the different verticals: biotech, diagnostic, medical devices, and digital health. As you can see, biotech is a big driver for the bank at SVB over 30 years. We track it by the different funding, pre-funding, seed, A, B, C, D, and E, over the various quarters, all right? We also drill down to the top indications over the last 2 years and what were the top approaches, what was that actual mechanism of action to lead to that indication, which is very valuable. And then we allow all of our users, this is SVB clients and non-SVB clients, we want to capture 100% of the market, and we share them with all the data, which is the round of financing, the total round raised, who are the top investors, the approach, the mechanism and action. All right, when you are able to collect all of that data, which I won't go into detail how we collect all the data, it is 10 data scientists, brilliant full stack developers. We got an entire team. What we do is we're able to provide you with brilliant insights. So let's go to the accelerator insights, all right? Because we're talking about early stage pre-C deals and Series A deals. What we've been able to do is track the top 11 accelerators, all right, globally. As you can see, IndieBio is one of the big ones with SOSV. And then what we do is all the accelerators basically can API all their data to us, or they can send it to Excel spreadsheets, whatever it is. We get all that data on a quarterly basis. We track all that data, and then we show that 11 different accelerators, 2,800 different companies globally, which ones have raised capital over time. So you can see Illumina, India, IndieBio, J&J, which ones have raised capital, which ones have not, where are they all located in a snapshot. You can also see the breakdown if you look at IndieBio, for example, how their breakdown is biotech, digital health, medical devices, and diagnostic. You can also see who are the most active investors in all the different accelerators, all right? And then you can see the companies funded by quarter, which is very relevant. And then you can get a data sheet of all the data right here that shows all the different deals, all right? The deal size, the date the deal was done, and which accelerator that they're tied to. This data is very helpful to startup companies to see which incubator, which accelerator they should work with, and also to see which VCs are deploying capital in certain areas. You can also drill down into the insights and you can get investor insights, all right? Investor insights will tell you which VCs are deploying capital in which companies in which segments, all right? So you can see the most active investors right here were Perceptive Advisors, Alexandria Venture Investments with 33 different deals, all right? And then you can see it across here. Now, this is the power of the platform. If you are logged in and you've created an account and you say, you know what, I'm really interested in seeing the data, but I'd like to see all the deals done by NEA, for example, all right? You click on NEA. We're using Tableau embedded analytics. These are superior analytics tools. Now, everything you see here are just the deals tied to NEA. All right, so here is NEA's deals in a snapshot, and then every deal that they did in the last 2.5 years. All right, extremely powerful. Now, why is this so powerful for people who are trying to raise capital? You can see where NEA is deploying their capital, which indications they're deploying the capital into. All right. So you could do competitive intelligence that you can't get on PitchBook or Crunchbase or others, because you can drill down into the indication, or you can drill down into the actual approach. Now let's get really, I'm letting you in on the secret sauce here. This is the paid subscription that's going to be launched in 2021. I'm going to give you a little preview. Let's just focus on neuro, for instance. Now that you've captured all of this different data, all right, imagine if you can go get insights only focused on the neuro industry. So here you can look at 113 different companies, 263 different investors, $4.1 billion invested in capital. Wouldn't it be pretty amazing if you can see what the clinical stages is on the 113 different deals? So now you can see the clinical stage that's related today. That's not when the deal was actually done, all right? And then you say, you know what? I'm interested in the top 10 deals in neuro. Here you go, right here, all listed. I want to see, you know what, who are the top 10 investors? Here they are. What were the deals that they did? And then you can see what were Alexandria's deals. All right. This is where it gets really exciting. I'd like to see, of the neuro deals, how many of those deals were done in orphan and rare disease. I can see that 34 was done, 360, well, excuse me, 1.3 billion was invested in the space. All right. And this is how it breaks down in all the different clinicals. Now, the question that you're going to ask me, Stephen, I know you'd ask me this, you'd say, okay, of those 7 deals, it'd be great to see what those 7 deals are. You click on the 7 deals, and then in real time, which doesn't exist on any other platform today, it'll give you the results. And here are the 7 deals that I just talked about that were in phase 2 clinical trials. All right, here's the name of the company, when they raised their last round of financing, who were the investors. So everybody on this call needs to know, how do I find which investors are deploying in which companies that will be a benefit to me, and which ones I should probably not go talk to because they've already got an investment in that sector. And then you can see, again, the indications and the approaches. Now, what makes Cipher Bio so powerful is we're proving it out in neuro insights right now, but we're going to move forward into gene therapy, autoimmune disease. SOSV has asked us to put together an entire dashboard just in food and ag, because I think they have 136 deals in food and ag right now, which is a very hot topic to some of the most powerful VCs on the planet. So by providing those types of insights, what SVB is providing to the whole industry, because we're trying to act as Switzerland, is that we would like more companies to raise capital. We want to help all companies raise capital. We want all investors to shine. And one of the key things that you need to realize is just, you can go down to Silicon Valley and you can see, who are the top investors in the Valley or in New York. There's a lot of investors globally that are deploying capital here in the United States. So here's a list of the most active VCs from other international markets that have just raised a lot of capital that are deploying here in the United States and across the rest of the world. This is a database that nobody else in the world is providing to early stage startups at no cost. All right, did you hear me? This is free for everybody right now. We're going to be rolling out a paid subscription in January where the cost will be so low, it will not even make a difference to an individual, a founder, or a VC. Because our goal here is not to make money off the product, it's to have everybody be able to provide data on the product. One thing that you'll also see that's really interesting is let's go back to Neuro Insights for one last moment. Julie, let's say 5 of the companies on this call here have said, you know what, of the 113 companies, there were 2 deals done yesterday, one in Ireland and another one in Israel, and it's not on the database. You could forward those 2 companies to us, and then within 24 to 48 hours, we'll put that data on the database. You just give us the name, we will do all the rest. And that's the power of SVB and Cipher Bio, is that we have the team, the scientists, the subject matter experts, a bunch of PhDs on staff who can provide all that data. And then one thing I love to highlight is we all know the top investors in the life science industry, all right? They deserve a lot of glory, all right? They've worked hard, they've raised the funds. These are all people like Brian Roberts and Michael Dixon and Robert Nelson. These are all the who's in the industry who have done amazing deals that deserve a lot of the credit. But you got to remember, I was on the VC side, and the people who live and they breathe with these companies 24/7 are the CEOs. And Cipher Bio is very bullish on promoting the CEOs and the people who deserve a lot of credit. All right. So these are the CEOs of the top companies, like the CEO of Moderna, that have made huge milestones in the last 2 years. And then we recognize them here on Cipher Bio. So Julie, why don't I stop there? Do I have time for a few questions?
You do, and in fact, this is a really beautiful dashboard, Matt. I really like the user interface. But there's already a question you may see from Sam about whether Cipher Bio can also let people know how much dry powder a particular investor has available for deployment.
Oh, that is a great question. Yeah, so we track funds, but we don't track the venture capital funds that may be out raising a new round of financing, right? But it's very easy for us to track. I think the best way to answer that is how many new funds have been raised. So what we'll be able to offer here in Insights, when you look at the 262, we'll pull it up right now, investors, so 263, you'll be able to click on those 263 and you'll be able to see how many of those have raised funds in the last year, 2 years, or 3 years. And that's a good indication of how much dry powder is left in the fund to make investments. Very good question.
Yeah, very interesting. And in the chat, it's not so much a question as a comment. This is awesome. So Excellent, excellent.
Well,
If
we
you have
appreciate
questions,
it. One last thing, Julie, I do want to let
please.
people know, we put out a blog. All right. We put out lots of blogs. One of the most successful blogs is the one where we highlight our accelerators like IndieBio and SOSV. All right. So this blog goes out. It goes out to everybody who subscribes to Cipher Bio, which means you just go to Cipher Bio, you put your email address in, and you get this blog. What you also get is a weekly digest. So I just sent out an email to everybody, all of our users, thousands. I think we're up to like 8,000 different users right now in Cipher Bio. So 8,000 people get a corrugated, connected, one simple email of 35 deals that would raise capital in the last week. So 35 deals, funds being raised, Series A, B, private transactions. We aggregate that. We send an email out to everybody so that they're informed. And that's a great way of keeping up to date. We don't talk about John Doe got a new job, Jane Doe got a new job. We don't put the fluff in there. This is all for fundraising to help founders raise capital. All right. And VCs to source founders who are interested in raising capital focused on high science right now.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Matt and Anton. This is a really useful tool, clearly with a lot of different applications. And I did see there was a question about the slides being available. We'll be following up with a recording, so everyone will have this available to watch at their leisure in the future.
And then Julie, last comment is everything I just showed you, you can see without the paid piece, which was the neuro piece. So everybody on this call, if you don't have an account, it's very simple. Create an account, go to Cipher Bio, fill out some information, hit go, and you have access to all of this data that I just showed you in real time.
Matt, when the paid subscription rolls out, is that going to be per sector? Let's say food tech, neuro, as you've been showing us, or is that one paid subscription for access to all of those?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's a simple paid access right now. Not going to tell you the price, but it's low enough to not be an issue for everybody, and they'll get access to all of the insights. So we're going to roll out 3 in the first quarter, and we'll be up to 10 to 12 different insights by the end of the year. But the 3 bigger insights will cover about 80% of the market.
Very exciting.
Thank you very much, Julie.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Anton. And as I mentioned at the top, Matt's not going to be able to stick around for very much longer. So if you do have questions for him, please do let us know. I'm checking the Q&A in the chat as you guys are continuing to interact with us. So thank you everyone for your questions. All right. Meanwhile, it's my pleasure to introduce Huang Yuan from the Center for Biotechnology, talking about some of the wonderful programming they have for early stage startups.
Thank you, Julie. Let me share my screen. Can you see my screen all right?
Not quite into presentation mode. Like it's in
presenter.
presenter mode here.
Okay, so let me do the stop share. My apologies. Is it in presentation mode or still in the?
Nope, that looks beautiful. Looks
okay.
great. Thank you, Huang.
So thank you, everyone. And my name is Fong, and I am a fellow at the Center for Biotechnology. Is my slide advancing? It doesn't seem to advance.
We're still on the title slide here.
Yeah, there is some problems. If you give me 1 second, I'm sorry.
No problem. And to those of you in the audience, we often will present, of course, the different resources in the order in which we think that you might want to access them, of course, as your company grows. But your mileage may vary, and of course, pick and choose from the different resources that we're sharing with you as you find them useful. Huang, would you like us to jump ahead to, oh, there we go.
I think that should look okay now. um, let's see. Julie, why don't you jump ahead? Let me figure this out.
No problem.
Sorry about that.
Not at all. And so Steve, we'll just jump ahead to IndieBio and we'll come back to the Center for Biotechnology.
So hopefully you can see my screen.
Looks great. Yep.
Okay. Well, hello everybody. That was awesome, by the way, Matt. And I'll be in touch. I want a subscription, so definitely going to be in touch there. So anyway, welcome everybody. Great to be able to sort of talk to everybody today. My name's Stephen Chambers. I'm a managing director at IndieBio in New York. And the story I want to tell you today is something about IndieBio and what we're doing in New York. You might have heard of IndieBio before. Thank you again, Matt and SSV for mentioning us in your slide deck. For the past couple of quarters, I think we're the largest or the biggest or most active investor in early stage life science companies globally. There's IndieBio SF, IndieBio in San Francisco, which you might have heard of before, which has been going for 5 years. IndieBio New York is a new creation that basically New York State came to IndieBio and said, we would like IndieBio in New York. And so IndieBio came to New York, very graciously funded by the state, EST. And we've been running a cohort for the past year. Going forward, we're going to run 2 cohorts a year, approximately 10 companies in each cohort. The way to think of IndieBio is, IndieBio is the first check that you need. Okay. New York has always had a very poor reputation for the early seed stage investing for various reasons. Like I've started companies before. My background is I have a PhD in molecular biology. I've worked in drug discovery, both small molecule and protein therapeutics. I was one of the founding scientists at Vertex Pharmaceuticals up here in Cambridge. I started another company after that called Apro Therapeutics, which is in the antibody and protein space. I've done a number of kind of startups. I've always worked in the kind of like startup environment, both in Europe and in the US. And so I was really excited to be able to come and work at IndieBio in New York. Just to give you some more background on IndieBio, like it's part of a global family of accelerators. It's backed by SOSV, which is a huge fund. Like it started off as a family fund, Sean O'Sullivan's family fund, but has grown much larger than that. Like it's got over 1,000 companies under management and just under $1 billion in active funding. It consists of a number of different accelerators, okay, around the globe. There's HAX, which is obviously hardware, which is in San Francisco and Shenzhen. There's IndieBio, which is in San Francisco and New York, which is solely life sciences. There's China Accelerator and MOX, which is in Taipei and Shanghai, and then FoodX, which is in New York City. So that's the accelerator programs that we have. And the way to think of it is that the IndieBio and the accelerator programs, if you want to sort of get started, they're a great place to come for that first bit of momentum that you need. So not just the money, but really the momentum that you need to get your opportunity and company up and running. And I just want to introduce you to this person here on the right, which is Uma Varati, who's co-founder of Memphis Meat. And, Una was a postdoc. I think he was an MD, PhD in cardiology. And he had an idea about transferring stem cells into cultured meat, lab-grown meat. And that was the basis of the idea of Memphis Meat. And he came to IndieBio with this idea. And we were able to transform his idea, and more specifically him, into an entrepreneur. And that's kind of in essence what we do. We're able to transform scientists into entrepreneurs. So if you come to us with a nascent idea, like, our role is to help you realize that opportunity and the idea and the research that you have. So IndieBio enables the best scientists in the world to build radically transformative companies for human and planetary health. And that's the area that we work in, is human and planetary health. So the companies that we see are everything from therapeutic all the way to lab-grown meats and everything in between. So the deal flow that we have within IndieBio is enormous, okay? And it is if you can imagine, like, I'll give you some of the investment numbers later, but of what that looks like. But, how do we do that? And as I said before, we run an accelerator program, a 4-month-long program, where we turn the scientists into entrepreneurs. We turn the science into a real product that there are customers available for. Like, if you've been through the I-Corps program, the NSF I-Corps program, the one way to thinking of that is, what do you do after you come out of the I-Corps program? I really want you to think of, you should be talking to IndieBio, because that's what happens is we pick up where a lot of these pre-accelerators and early stage kind of entrepreneurial activities end. We take you that next bit that you might need to get in front of investors and start getting money into the company. We have a huge network, both of alumni companies and also of investors and entrepreneurs and mentors and partners that can help you transform your ideas into products. So who do we work with? Well, as you can see, we work very closely with the ecosystem, especially here in New York State. And one of the reasons that we're on this call, I'm very pleased to be on this call with our colleagues that work in this, in the innovation ecosystem. And what we do is we are trying to nucleate as much activity as possible and form as the community as much as possible around the opportunities that are available for them to take their ideas forward. And you can see some of the nucleation that we've been doing. Like, this is one of the outreach events that we have, but we're trying to bring a connectivity here. So even if you're not going to work with IndieBio, we want to promote everybody in the ecosystem so that there's a huge amount of activity around life science and entrepreneurship and basically transforming science from the laboratory into the marketplace. I just wanted to show you this slide because I think this is kind of interesting. If you look at the numbers of where we are active, this is a breakdown of the companies that we have invested in. You can see, like, there's probably therapeutics is I think is probably the largest sector that we invest in, but it's also diagnostics, cosmetics, farm, non-farm. So that's kind of like the Memphis Meat area, which, as was pointed out before, there's a huge amount of interest in this area. But we also invest in energy. Biomaterials is a big one as well. So the apparel, supplements, all these are vitamins, adamant supplements, excipients, medical devices, farming, healthcare, and materials. So we, like the types of companies that we invest in are across the board. Okay, so I don't want anybody to think, oh, IndieBio only invests in, cultured foods or in therapeutics. We will invest in good opportunities every good opportunity that comes in front of us. Just want to talk a bit about the companies that we've taken through our first cohort in New York. It was very trying times, running a cohort. We actually started in March, just as New York City was locking down. But the amazing thing is, and it's a real testament to the strength of entrepreneurs, is that they were all able within the 4-month program to, advance their technology, advance the business opportunity, get deals, get customers, and really make, tremendous progress. And the really exciting part of that is that they, a lot of them were able to raise money. One company raised money within the program itself, which is kind of very unusual. Typically, we try and, focus the investor raising process till demo day and thereafter. But companies were very, very successful. Not all of the companies, go that fast, but it's always amazing to me working in these accelerator programs how quickly these companies do. And we had, like, just to take you through them, we have Allied Microbiota, which was working in the bioremediation space. Sindo had developed an enzyme that will degrade plastics. Diptera AI produces basically sterile mosquitoes for birth control for mosquitoes. Halamine had an amazing product that extends the life of chlorine materials. So it has antibacterial activity and antiviral activity. So it extends the the surface lifetime of things like Clorox. Montes Media was developing a fully synthetic growth media for mammalian cells. Biofin produced a food encapsulation process for delivering drugs to fish in aquaculture. BrightCure was working on a microbiome product that would reduce microbial activity and could be used to combat UTIs. Biomage, which was one of the stars of the program, had a single-cell RNA sequencing platform, and Cayuga Biotech was a pure therapeutic play company that had developed a molecule that was able to promote platelet formation, clotting formation. It was like a synthetic platelet. So all these companies came through the program. And they all did a magnificent job in the program. I was very, very proud of them. The progress that they made in the program, especially under these very trying times. So where are we located? So we have a lab at Rockefeller University. We're on the 16th floor of the Weiss Science Tower. I don't know how many of you are familiar with that bit of New York East Side location. It's fully kitted out BL2, so it's you're able to do cell culture work there. There's equipment for basic biochemistry, protein biochemistry, molecular biology, hoods, cultures, some fermentation, some protein purification, a lot of analytical work can be done there. And also we've got some automation as well that we're heavily investing in. So that's where we're located. When times come back to normal, we would love, there's an open invitation to everybody. Please come and visit us. We would love to show you around the labs and tell you what we're doing and what we have in place. So please, when times return to normal, please come and visit us. Again, so just want to talk about some of the companies. We are here specifically to start companies and also grow companies. And just to give you some numbers of what, and I've taken these numbers from IndieBio broadly from both New York and San Francisco. So 90% of our teams are made up of PhDs and postdocs as founders. Okay, the big event that we have each year is a demo day when we invite a selected audience and the public. It's typically selected investors and the public to review the pictures of our companies, which is a great event. I would, if you ever see it advertised, and we will be putting out invites to that. Please come along. It's an amazing event. I can't speak highly enough about it. At these demo days, we have up to 500, possibly more this year, I think we had VCs and angels in attendance. Oh no, that is the 2020 date. Okay, and these companies that we have, they are global companies. These founders come from around the world. What I was going to say, okay, yeah, the average follow-on funding raised for each successful company, and not every company is successful, but if they've successfully traversed the program and meet the technical milestones and business milestones, the average raise is 2.5 million. Number of jobs created is well over 700. And the survival rate, which I think is probably the most telling number, is 80% of the companies are surviving and still operating 4 years after the accelerator program. Okay, and I just want to encourage you all. We are constantly recruiting for companies to join us. Like, we really want to hear from you. So please, talk to us. Even if you don't have a fully formed idea, we definitely want to talk to you and help you in the very early gestation of your ideation. And what you get for this is you get 250K investment, you get rent-free laboratory space from, and also leading mentors and investors and tapping into our network. But what we're looking from you is great ideas, lots of energies, and a 4-month commitment to join us on an amazing entrepreneurial journey. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Steve. Great overview. And there is a question for you. I answered one in the interim. That's very, very useful information. And again, we'll be sharing these slides with you in the audience by sharing the presentation after the event is finished. Meanwhile, if you do have a question, feel free to pop that into the Q&A. Our panelists will be answering what they can by typing, and we will also be having a question and answer session at the very end. I do see that some of you have your hands raised, and we really want to make sure that your questions are answered and that we are addressing the concerns that you have. So if you do have a question, please add it to either the chat or preferably the Q&A chat box. All right, thank you, Steve. And next we will return to Fong. Fong, have you got the presentation ready for sharing?
Let's
Beautiful.
try it again, and hopefully this will work this time. Can you see the full screen now?
The full screen looks beautiful.
Great, thank you, and thank you for your patience and my apology for the technical glitch. But here, my name is Fong, and I'm a fellow at the Center for Biotechnology. We are based at Stony Brook campus in Long Island. So just to give an overview of our staff at the center, our lead management is Clint Rubin and Diane Fable, and our core team consists of seasoned experts in commercializations across all life science sector. At our core, we are a nonprofit accelerator for life science ventures, and our mission is to support the New York State bioscience industry growth. And in order to achieve that mission, we have received multiple designations from the federal government, such as NIH Rich Hub, the Border Drive, and the New York State government. These allow us to provide zero-cost programs to all New York-based ventures. And our focus areas are on the right-hand side of the slide, including company formations, capital formation that leading to partnerships, as well as mentoring and educational support. We work with multiple institutional partners across New York and nationwide, as well as significant number of key industry partners that allow us to provide advice and direction for client companies that we have cultivated over the past 30 years. So the fact that we are a nonprofit accelerator that provide a zero cost, and we do not take any equity in the company that we support, so this is freely available to any company, and we come in with zero conflict of interest here. So instead, our success as shown here in the measures, such as the jobs that have been created in New York from the company that we supported, the revenue that have been generated by those ventures, and our impact has been quite considerable over the past few years. So you might ask what the programmatic offerings do we have? We provide a mixture of education, funding, program development to our clients. And as you can see on the arrow here, that it really shows a spectrum of the program that we offer along the progressions of life science ventures from the very early earlier stage, which could be just an idea or very some data that you that come out of the academic lab, to eventually become ventures with some capital backing and an eventual exit indicate at the end of the arrow. And because of these spectrums, our center can engage with a variety of clients who might be at either at the early stage, pre-company formations, or at the advanced stage public companies that listed on the stock exchange or the NASDAQ. So in the interest of time, I will focus on several programs that might be of interest to the audience, which is the bootcamp, which is for the very early stage, to some of the program for post-company formations, and towards the funding support, the SBI SCGR program, and our networking program in the Life Science Summit. So our bootcamp program is really designed as a first step for new technology, usually in pre-company form, to understand if there is a potential business. And what we do is we form a team of experts and fellows around this technology that is guided through different modules of asking critical questions about the technology, your customer base, competitive advantage, business models. And a lot of companies that have gone through this program that have moved on to become quite successful. Here's some of the example. Codagenics have raised about 20 million and have a vaccine candidate for COVID-19. So it really is a valuable program for especially the first-time entrepreneurs or academic scientists that want to commercialize their technologies and move it to a company. In the post-company formations, we offer biostrategy and biomentor programs to all type of companies, from a recent spin-out to existing companies that need aids in technology and business development. And how do we do that? We provide sort of an in-house commercialization clinic where we take up different projects in-house, for instance, to help you define your market, to conduct competitive intelligence, financial projections, asset pricing, and we do all this in-house and sort of determines from your needs. We can also provide advice on the corporate pitch of the companies, identifying the gaps and where it needs to be strengthened from our advisors from the industries and VC. To kind of put it all together, this shows kind of an ideal pathway of how our program, our biostrategy come together for post new company formations. So after getting some advice from our team, we'll work with you to towards an early stage biostrategy in Long Island. And now it has gone virtual, but hopefully we'll come back to the in-person form at some point soon, where our advisor will provide some actionable guidance on your business and corporate strategies. And this effort will be continued by the formation of a mentor group around your company. And when the company has progressed far enough, the New York City Biostrategy will help company present to a more aligned investors and strategic partners, where they not only get further advice on strategy, but also develop a network of potential exit partners. And with this program, we have supported companies that are currently fundraising from 5 to 20 million. So company can come to us and join any program upon intake assessment from our team to determine which program that would work best for their needs. We are very flexible and want to make sure that we cater our support to each company's current and future needs. So I wanted to just go very quickly through the continuous support and one funding mechanism that we have program support that might be of great interest to new company for non-dilutive funding, which is the SBI SCGR program. Here we partner with a third-party consulting group to deliver workshops and seminars about NIH and NSF SBR and SCTR grant writing, and this is a great opportunities for anyone who wanted to additional money and zero equity will taken for generating more data for the technology. Again, we also have a networking opportunities, and annually we gather together in New York City, and this year virtually at Life Science Summit. It's really an ideal place for early to mid-stage ventures to partner with our former VC and other investment vehicles. It's very valuable networking opportunities here. And here's just a sort of a sample, small sample of the company that we have worked with to date. You can see it's span across various areas from pain management, pain QX, to some of the pandemic response or critical care with the work with the Society of Critical Care Medicine. I wanted to spend a little bit of time on this slide to show our recent success in the with the NIH Rich funding program that we had. And the NIH Rich funding program is really meant to help academics projects, academic ideas to move towards be turned into commercial opportunities and to move to company formations. And as you can see here, that we have 50% success rate in the SBR and SCTR program, and which is much higher than the national average of about less than 20%. And you can see here on the top and the bottom right table, it show quite impressive the return on our funding in this early stage projects in just a few years. Our investment show a 10x multiple on this investment. And we're doing really well comparing to the average and other accelerators. So I wanted to touch on our recent involvement with BARDA, which is a Biomedical Advanced Research and Development Authority, which is quite relevant in this time of COVID pandemic. In terms of what we do and how we support innovations in the national health securities. So we are part of a network of 13 accelerators across the countries that support BARDA missions of forming the public and private partnership with industry partners to develop medical countermeasures for health security threats. And you can think of these threats in multiple ways. It could be biological threat, the virus, antimicrobial resistance, as well as chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear threats, influenza, and that sort of things. So the way that we work, we leverage our network and our model to work with BARDA and assist the government agency to ramping the efforts in securing national health is shown here. So we work in multiple ways. The first step is that we help sourcing new ventures in various areas, sepsis, early notifications of infections, COVID-19, diagnostic vaccines, medical devices. And once the ventures are identified, we can further support you in some ways, in two ways. First is the grant applications will help with the in-depth due diligence to determine your potentials, and we assist you in navigating a different program and funding mechanisms to work with BARDA. We also help you with proposal development and feedback and review on your proposal, especially to make sure that you have a sound commercialization plan, which is very important for BARDA grants. We also can continue to support you and the companies in post-proposal submissions with our wraparound services through the strategies program, which is highly valuable, and BARDA really have really appreciate sort of the engagement of our advisors into their program, as well as helping you with private capital fundraising and others networking opportunities. So to date, we have supported and sent more than 24 applicants to BARDA in various areas of national health security, facilitated 16 Tech Watch meetings with the general BARDA expert teams, and have aided more than 30 COVID companies. So we also have some exciting program coming up with BARDA in the pandemic response. So stay tuned for that. Here's just an example of some of the ventures that we have supported through the BARDA designations. So we really look forward to the opportunity to work with new ventures, entrepreneurs, investors in the life science group. And in a little bit, you'll hear from a new group that we have recently engaged with the Bird Foundation. So we'll have open door. Please contact us for any support and needs that you have. And thank you.
Thank you so much, Pong. That was a really great overview of a lot of resources offered by the Center for Biotechnology. Really great, and also a nice segue into introducing Andrea. Andrea Yona works with the Bird Foundation and is going to present the opportunities for early stage biotech startups offered by her organization. Andrea, hi, thanks for joining us.
Hello. My screen showing up okay? My presentation, you see it? Okay, great.
Very nice, yes.
So again, thank you so much for inviting me. You know, with each presentation, I was like, wow, that's so relevant. You know, that's such great information. And then between what IndieBio offers and Fang, what you were talking about with really valuable resources, because I meet so many companies, you know, whether they're at an earlier stage or at a later stage. Many of them can use those services, especially in grant writing and giving feedback. And sometimes we think we're special because we give feedback. Apparently, we're not the only ones. So, so I think there's a lot of synergy with a lot of what what all of your organizations are doing. So, Bird Foundation. A name that's easy to remember, not so helpful in understanding what we do. Nothing to do with birds, and not really a foundation. BIRD is an acronym, Binational Industrial Research and Development, and it's not technically a foundation. You can't donate to it, even if you wanted to. It is a fund. It's technically a federally funded research and development program. So it's funded by both governments, the US and Israeli governments. It started back in 1977, so we've been around for a while. And it began with a joint $110 million endowment. So this is an endowment between both countries, each putting in equal amounts, 55 million from each side. And that funding is, or I should say the interest on that funding is what makes up most of our budget to fund innovative joint development between US and Israeli companies. Why Israel, you ask? Israel, today most people know, it's called a startup nation. There's more, while it's small, the size of New Jersey, there's more startups per capita than anywhere else in the world. There's quite a dynamic life science, biotech, healthcare IT community. In general, Israel is very strong in all technology areas, from software to artificial intelligence, engineering. So there's a lot going on there. And the purpose of this fund back when it started and up until today is to be able to offer US companies the opportunity to kind of leverage the technology going on in Israel and together create joint development that's of mutual benefit to both countries. We have a board that's made up of government entities on both sides. We have co-chairs on the US side for our General Bird Fund, which is headed up by the NIST. On the Israeli side, it's what's called the Israel Innovation Authority. And other board members are from the State Department, the Department of the Treasury, and similar Israeli entities on the Israeli side, Israeli government entities on the Israeli side. I should mention that, in fact, we actually met due to the Israel Economic Mission in New York at the Israeli consulate. Josh Berliner, shout out, I think he's on, I think he's participating, but Josh at the Israel Economic Mission, he focuses on the life sciences and very often connects companies or organizations like yours with the Bird Foundation. We work very closely with him. So they're a very good resource for identifying and meeting Israeli companies, investors, et cetera. So how does this work? We are a funding mechanism. We're a risk-sharing mechanism. And what we're providing is cost share, a dollar-to-dollar match towards a combined project budget between the partners, the US company and the Israeli company. Up to a maximum of $1 million, which would mean that you're typically looking at a combined project budget of about $2 million. Most of our projects, I would say, are not much less than a combined project budget of 1.5, especially in life sciences. We oftentimes see projects even higher, as high as 3 million, but the maximum that we can provide is $1 million. As I said, this is a risk share. So if the project does not succeed for any reason, there is no repayment to us whatsoever. So it's just considered a grant. However, this is a recoverable grant. So if the project is successful, that does trigger a repayment. This is typically through revenue from the final product. There is a life science model, which I'll go into later. That we use more for projects that have more of a milestone or clinical trials. But in any case, any successful project, and however that is measured, does repay us. This is non-dilutive. We're not taking equity, we're not taking IP, and it's capped. We're not a VC, we're government fund, but whatever repayments are provided to us, that cycles right back in to fund other projects. We fund projects outside of life science and everything, with the exception only of military-specific applications, everything else we do. And you'll see that life sciences does make up the largest part of our portfolio. And that's actually separating out healthcare IT. So that is quite a significant part of our portfolio. It's been a very successful program. From that $110 million endowment, we've now granted over $363 million, approved over 1,000 projects. We've gotten back now, we're at about 111 million, meaning we've kind of earned back our initial endowment investment, which I think is a testament to the model. And most importantly, for the two governments, it's generated about $10 billion, either directly or indirectly, from the projects that we have funded. How do the governments see the success? Well, obviously through the sales and the repayments from successful projects, jobs created on both sides when these companies collaborate, whether it's new manufacturing lines, new product development, new R&D teams, and the sales people that result. Also things like capital that's raised as a result of receiving our funding, which is something that I'm going to go into as well, and very important, I think, for startups. M&A that results, companies, foreign direct investment, companies that set up operations in the US, and sometimes US companies that set up R&D plants in Israel, and obviously export. So what are we looking for at the end of the day, should companies want to apply? We want to see a very high level of innovation. We are really looking for innovative projects. We are looking for risky projects that perhaps otherwise would not be able to move forward if not for our funding. We want to see that the two companies really have good synergy. That there's there's really shared risk between them. They both have skin in the game. They're offering complementary technologies to each. They've been able to identify a market opportunity and a get-to-market strategy. And they really have a good commercialization strategy. I like to say that one of the two partners should really be an experienced company. And I'm not saying that means they have to be large or multinational. I'm saying that they should really be one of the two should really be a company that has really brought technologies to market before, that they've commercialized the technologies, they know how to do it, and they have those partners in place to assist them should they need it. Why do companies come to BIRD, even the large ones? Because you'll see we have many large companies that work with us. First of all, for the funding, even surprisingly large companies, even Pfizer, who we've worked with before. R&D is always looking for additional funding. And when you break it down to small R&D groups, they're always looking for funding, no matter how large the corporation. The risk sharing mechanism, the fact that the governments are willing to put in 50% of the money, and the fact that the two companies really propels projects forward because it shows that commitment. And it allows the projects to accelerate faster than perhaps it would have. And finally, I would say this, what we call validation of a stamp of approval. That is really important. By the NIST and the Israeli Innovation Authority saying, we approve this project. It's gone through our evaluation process. NIST reviewers and reviewers from Israel have evaluated these projects and believe in the technology submitted through the proposal. That really allows companies to go out and receive the matching funds that they often need to move their projects forward. We have two cycles yearly. Our upcoming one, you'll see here in the call for proposals, will start with a joint submission of an executive summary between both companies, submitted on March 1st. We make a recommendation if they should move forward to the full-scale proposal, which is April 13th, and the board meets in June to select the project. So it's quite a quick process. I will also say that they can submit their executive summaries to us early before March 1st, and we'll provide feedback, allowing them to make some necessary changes to submit something that's their best and strongest proposal. So these are our two, the first of the year starting in March, ending in June, and then we have another one starting in September and ending in December. We're right now a week before selecting new projects with our board. So what is the pharma model? So typically, and I think up until the late 90s, we just had our regular, revenue-based repayment model. And when life science companies and biotech companies started wanting to work with us, the board asked, how can we make a difference here? How can $1 million make a difference for companies that really need to do clinical trials? And that's where they came up with what they call the pharma model, where the end of the project doesn't necessarily need to be a product that can be sold, but can be a specific milestone, like a preclinical or a phase 1 trial. And we can fund just that part. At that point, when you say, so, what is the successful trigger? So if the companies successfully achieve that milestone, that's what triggers the repayment. Typically, the companies are repaying at that point because based on a successful milestone, they're receiving additional investment, or in other way, perhaps licensing technology, or sometimes an M&A or something of that sort. Yes. So we have many different types of pharma, what we call pharma collaborations. And like I said before, it can be a large and a small company, two small companies. Again, even if it's two small companies, one of them really should be an experienced company. Not only does this have to be in biotech, but we've been able to apply this particular model to things like medical devices, as well as agricultural technologies as well. And I saw that that you've been involved in life science agritech as one of the industries that you're working on. In New York, has been very successful with BIRD, with 97 projects throughout the years, 23 of them in life sciences, two, in addition to those 23, two specific to healthcare IT. I just put a couple of examples from recent years, just so you can see some of the companies that we've worked with. I like to say that New York City is also a very vibrant community for Israeli companies. And I think in recent years, I'm sure a lot of you have heard of Cornell Tech, which has its own commercialization center and incubator for entrepreneurs, as well as Jerusalem Venture Partners, which has opened up its own center, SOSA. So there's a really dynamic and growing community of Israeli companies in New York City. And I think that can really kind of add to what you're doing here. So these are just some of the projects. I don't want to take too much longer. I came up with a few examples just so you could see what we're talking about when we mean a pharma project, or what does a project like that look like? So this is a project going back a few years between an Israeli company, Biotechnology General, and Mountain View Pharmaceuticals from California, where they were developing a treatment for intractable gout, which was ultimately FDA approved, but we were funding it at an earlier stage during their clinical trials. Another real biotech specific project this is a Maryland-based company, Atox Bio, a company in Israel called Fast Track Drugs and Biologics, and they were developing a therapeutic for sepsis and sepsis shock. And I saw that was one of the projects that, or one of the areas that was identified in one of the previous presentations, which I thought was really interesting. Another one, and this was kind of interesting because the US partner was actually the American Red Cross and a company in Israel. So that I believe is the end of my presentation. And again, thank you. I hope I didn't go over. I'm not sure if my timer went off, but I appreciate the opportunity and answering any questions that anyone might have.
Thank you, Andrea. What a really great dynamic presentation. And I really love the concrete examples you gave at the end. That was really useful. Thank you. And so now is when we're going to open it up to the audience. I see that there's been a lot of back and forth. Well done. This is your opportunity to, make at least a virtual connection with the panelists here. So feel free to reach out and send an email afterwards. But also let's kick things off with some of the questions that have been submitted with the registration. One of the questions, I really liked this question when it was submitted, one of the first registrants, and it was, what are the biggest challenges facing biotechs? And I think that we can actually use this question to not only highlight where those bottlenecks may be, but how your specific programs address a specific problem or challenge that is faced along the way toward growing a large company. And so if you can think how you've worked with many different founders throughout the past years in building out this New York ecosystem, perhaps I'll start with you, Fong, to start at kind of the earlier stage of company ideation and MVP generation. And you can talk about what are some of the bottlenecks that the Center for Biotechnology has been able to help people address.
Thank you, Julie. So I think for the early stage companies, it really is the questions of, do you have the commercial opportunity here with the technology? And we work very closely with our partners, especially from the academic labs. And with that, you know, in order to evaluate this sort of business opportunity, you need to be able to surround yourself with the right people. You have to have the right team, the business team. You know, the founders have excellent, I think, scientific understanding, but the business might be need a little bit more refinement, need a lot more help. So that is really where we come in, because we will be able to with our resources, with our in-house sort of experts, you will have that first chance of answering, picking up brain and asking these veterans, you know, is this an opportunity? Is that a commercial potential here? And we'll help you sort of guiding you through understanding the path from how to form a company, how to generate the IP, you know, what IP opportunities, how to generate IP, how to turn that IP into you know, dollar value. Right? So that's where we come in.
Excellent, excellent. And I'll turn next to Anton to talk about SVB and Cipher Bio. You can address either the other programming that you talked about at the beginning or Cipher Bio, which we had that nice presentation. What challenge do you think that you're particularly able to add value to or help people overcome?
So it's actually, can you hear me? Just checking.
Yep, sounds great.
Okay,
sounds great.
So once they've incorporated and they require a banking service, they're usually coming in at that early stage, and that's when we see them. And one of the critical things for them to grow is, prior to capital, is the correct team. So team formation. And what we're seeing right now in a COVID environment is networking has been somewhat stalled, because usually it's face-to-face networking, right? So trying to build that team, a relevant team, management team, to their therapeutic area. So whatever that might be, they want to have the correct people involved. What we've done at SVB is put together a lot of these online events where people can network together. SVB banks not only the life science companies, but also the VCs that bank the life science or fund the life science companies, and also the LPs that fund the VCs that bank the life science companies. So we have a lot of networks slushing around, and we have many companies that bank with us. So we put together a lot of wine tasting events. So we are in a niche banking business of life science, tech, and the wine industry in California. So we're able to leverage our wine connections to put together wine tasting events, online wine tasting events for our clients, as well as potential leads that they can network to. So we do that a lot. And in terms of investment interests, as we do bank the VCs as well as the LPs that support the VCs, we're able to support them internally with connections to our investor network, but then also externally to other investors through the Cipher Bio platform. So there's a lot of networks that we form now online because of COVID.
Anton, that's excellent. I don't know if you actually saw the question from Donna in the Q&A, but she was asking about filling out a team. So that's really great. If you have any information about those networking events, that's a question that we get asked quite a bit at IndieBio. And so if you could put that into the chat, I'm sure that several people in the audience had that question in addition. So really great resource. Steve, how about IndieBio? What's the biggest challenge or the biggest challenges that IndieBio helps people to overcome as they're building their large tech companies?
Well, I'd agree with everybody else that had gone before me, you know, about the challenges, because there are so many that, you know, it's a bit unfair to say what is the one. And I'd steal from Anton as well and say, you know, access to capital is kind of, you know, but it is capital and resources. And I think that's what IndieBio provides. You know, all the money is kind of like, you know, critical. I often think of my own experience, like it wasn't the science that failed, you know, the companies that I started, it was never the science, it was the lack of money. You know, if you've got money, you can make the science work, but if you haven't got money, it's kind of, it's very difficult. So I like to think that, you know, what IndieBio does is kind of, it does democratize kind of startups. Like I'm from the UK. Typically people that start companies in the UK, they've got rich mom and dads. Okay, that's how it works. The phenotype of folks that we take into IndieBio, it's one of the reasons that I like working and I came to work at IndieBio, is it does have that rebel pirate thing where, this is like startup, like we live and breathe startup. So I think, when you come into our ecosystem, it does give you a certain amount of confidence because we've all done startups. We can bring in our alumni from NotCo that have just raised 30 million. They were in our accelerator 3 years ago. Okay, so we get you into the ecosystem, and I think that's what helps entrepreneurs. Kind of rubbing shoulders with other entrepreneurs. That's why I think this event is really important, and everybody on this panel, the ability to nucleate our conversations and like everybody that's joined us today, it's really important, the connectivity that we build. And so I would say that connectivity, that's what IndieBio gives you. It gives you access. It allows you to get to investment committees, get to investors. It gives you that access that is, unfortunately, the reality is it's really difficult to get that access if you're just by yourself. So we provide an entree to that. And that's why IndieBio and Sean O'Sullivan set up, the accelerators around the globe to do that.
Excellent. And I saw you nodding a couple times there, Andrea, at the access to capital and the networking. I imagine that given your model of pairing these companies together, that you find value in both of those things. Can you perhaps add a little bit of color to your nods?
Oh yeah. So, people always ask, what are the reasons that projects succeed or fail, for the projects that receive funding from us. And we always say that the technology not working is almost never the reason for a project failing. For us, less so than lack of capital, it's more so the collaboration didn't work between the people. So at the end of the day, what we see is, number one, is the relationships between the two companies, and that they have good open communication and can work together well. So that's why when, I'm not an expert specifically on biotech, or, certainly not in many of the other areas, but when I'm doing my due diligence and looking at companies, I'm really focused on their commitment to the project and their commitment to each other. So that's why I was nodding as far
certainly.
as, it's not about, it's about the technology, but that's not typically the reason for a project failing.
That's excellent. Yes, I like that there is so much echo from the panelists here, really emphasizing that we see very similar bottlenecks or challenges that companies see time after time after time. So we are just at the very end. I would like to kind of ask round robin. So we had a whole number of questions from you guys in the audience about various aspects of startup life, things around IP, things around fundraising. IndieBio does host a number of events about these topic specific items. So please check out our Eventbrite or our events newsletter to find out where you can get more information regarding those. But just like fundraising was a large question, so was COVID, and the future of biotech funding going forward. So since that was a large theme, I wonder if our panelists could just address what they see in, let's say, the next 12 to 24 months in terms of funding opportunities for people who might be in this early biotech startup space. And I'll just open it to the floor if anyone would like to provide their closing thoughts in this.
I can just say, I'm not sure how much I can forecast, but I can say that we saw more project submissions than we typically see this year. So there were many more companies that were looking for our funding model to help move their collaborations forward. We were able to, in addition, some of our grantees that were in the midst of their projects were having difficulties. And we actually put some funding aside and allowed them to apply for some additional funding specific to challenges they faced because of COVID. So we certainly made some adjustments to give extra assistance. And like I said, we're seeing a lot more companies submit. We haven't found that everything, it's amazing what you can do virtually, and it's amazing how companies can meet up virtually. It also seems to have given a lot of people more time to write proposals without all that traveling going on.
That's right. That's right.
So, we're all kind of stuck here. So I think that we've certainly been able to meet people. We've certainly been able to write proposals, but to really form relationships and make them work, I think we still really need to be able to meet in real life. So we all look forward to that coming back.
Yes, we absolutely do. But I like your pandemic lemonade there of having more time to write some more proposals, which is a good use of that extra time. Fong and Stephen, I saw you guys were both nodding at that. Some connectivity being perhaps a little bit easier in this time. Any details on that?
I think we saw it with our present cohort that's just graduated. It was amazing that they were able to not only advance the technical side of things, but they were able to sort of advance the business opportunity. Get meetings with customers, there was BD was going on amazingly. They were able to sort of get LOIs, JVs, collaborations, it's amazing. It just still goes on. You would think everything would just come to a grinding halt, but it didn't. And the other end of that is that, the companies in the cohort are doing really well raising money. So, fingers crossed, we will get through this and, we will get back to normal. So.
Yes, absolutely. And Huang, did you want to add a couple of details?
I think I echo everyone's comments on that, and really I think this definitely is pose a great challenge, that kind of personal connections that you can form, and that's where sort of one of our program, the New York City Biostrategy sessions, and have gone virtually, is trying to do is to continue to facilitate that. And I found that some of the investor has been actually more inclined to accept invitations to this pitch invitations virtually now, because they still want to get engaged, and so I want to encourage sort of being active out there, and I like Andrea comments on grants too, because it's a great time to really leverage those government grants, that's non-dilutive funding opportunities. It's small, it's not a lot, but it's get you started, and you really need that first step to become more attractive to the active partner. It's tough. It's really difficult to go into an investment conversation without a substantial or significant data package and the formation of the technology in a more complete form.
Yeah, absolutely. A good use of some of those extra hours that we get from not commuting. All right. So with that, I'd like to say thank you to our panelists. Thank you for taking time out of your day to present your wonderful opportunities to provide a lift for the biotech ecosystem here in New York and really around the world. And so Anton, Andrea, Fong, Steve, thank you so much for taking time today.
Thank you, Julie, for putting this together. Yep.
Yeah, thank you, Julie. Wonderful.
Thanks
Thank
for
you,
including me. Nice to meet you
Yes,
all,
of
and hope we
course.
can all follow up.
Yeah.
Yes,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, take care, all of you participants, and we'll be in touch with the recording.
Okay. Have a good holidays.
Happy holidays.
happy holidays.